It's Insta-Cash Grenada. Imagine a game with no numbers to choose from, no draws to wait on, and you can play it every day, including Sunday. That's Insta-Cash. It's fast, it's easy to play, and you win prizes instantly. Insta-Cash. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA. Making dreams come true.
The government of Grenada, through the Ministry of Finance, is continuing the rollout of its tax amnesty initiative. The amnesty provides 100% waiver of all interest and penalties on all outstanding balances up to the end of December 2021. All taxpayers with outstanding tax balances and outstanding returns to file are encouraged to take advantage of this amnesty. All tax types administered by the division are eligible for tax amnesty. For further information on the tax amnesty, please contact the Inland Revenue Division at 435-6945 or 435-6946. Email tpshelpdesk@ird.gov.gd or visit our website ird.gd. Amnesty ends December 31st.
Yeah. Welcome to the ride. Welcome to Tuesday on the ride. My Tuesday, your Tuesday, aka my Monday. Because yesterday, guys, I was not here. Ah, boy. And wait until I tell you guys this story, man. Wow. Difficult day yesterday, guys. Very, very difficult. Tag a friend, guys. We have a lot to discuss today on the program. We have Attorney Jerry Edwin, who is one of the top legal professionals on the island of Grenada. And of course, Mr. Jerry Edwin is very vocal on social issues, been very vocal, both inside court and outside court. Mr. Jerry Edwin had made some comments on the initiation, or the celebration, I should say, of the International Men's Day, right? That was just recognized on the 19th. Also joining us is a activist. He is the chair or the founder of the Single Fathers Association in Tobago. He's going to be talking to us about what he believes is in complete contrast to what Mr. Jerry Edwin say. He believes that the celebration of International Men's Day is profound and it's great. It's something that should be probably started or picked up in many other islands. So we have a very, very enlightening and informative debate here with both Mr. Jerry Edwin and Mr. Randall Fields. So share the thing, man. Share the thing. Everybody share. As you come and share up the thing. And remember, I told you guys yesterday was a difficult day. I feel like right now, you know that song that Kanye West did, Through the Wire? I feel like I'm doing the show Through the Wire. Because yesterday, guys, right after I got off the plane, I came in from Grenada last night, and I got off the plane, and as I was toting some bags from the cart into the car, boy, my back just gave out completely. And the only thing that didn't happen is that I didn't fall down on the ground. And if I didn't have a car or someone there to brace me, I probably would have. So for the whole night yesterday, last night, I spent a good portion of the night in the hospital here. Thanks to the doctors and the nurses and the people there, they were able to quickly diagnose and help me kind of ease it up a little bit. But it's very, very painful. Even to sit here at the moment to do the show is very, very painful. Nevertheless, I think it's necessary to be here because I have a commitment, right? So I'm doing this program tonight Through the Wire. It is painful. I'm taking meds. I have on my back, I have this electrical shock sensor. So if from time to time you see I kind of a little bit, is because it's just difficult for me to sit upright like this. But it's necessary though. It's therapeutic for me to do so. All right? And it's important. Thank you. It's important, guys. So as much as I am doing this Through the Wire, and I think that it is very important, I think that it's important for you to share the program because you're going to learn something here today, right? When you have this type of debates, it brings on two sides of a story, and then you get a chance to learn both sides and make your assessment as to what's good and what's not. Okay, all right. So here we go, guys. Help me introduce my friend. He is no stranger to the ride. He is a familiar face, Mr. Jerry Edwin. How you doing, my attorney friend? Very busy attorney. How are you doing, sir?
I'm living, brother. I'm living, brother.
You're living.
Thank you, and good afternoon, good evening, rather, to
Nice.
you and your listeners, and to your guest, Mr. Randall. Good evening.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Edwin. And of course, Mr. Randall, he's the first time here on the program. Mr. Randall, I wanna thank you so much. Randall Field is a social activist and businessman in Trinidad and Tobago. He's the founder and president of the Single Fathers Association in TNT. Mr. Fields, how you doing, my brother?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Nice.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely great. So let's start with Mr. Edwin. Mr. Edwin, we had this conversation as I was getting off the plane, and I was explaining, Mr. Edwin, right after we had this conversation and I was approaching my bag, this is where the worst happened. So right after that, minutes after we spoke, Jerry, I had the incident. Just minutes after we spoke. So, but I'm here now. So Jerry, you made a very controversial statement in regards to the International Men Day. And the International Men Day, guys, is celebrated in 56 countries around the world, namely Antigua, Anguilla, Grenada, even the United States, Canada, Mexico, Croatia, Cuba, Finland, France, a whole bunch of countries. But you have the opinion, sir, that the International Men Day should not be celebrated and should not be advocated for. Tell us why.
Well, let me say that I'm in good company. I'm not the only person, the only man who believes that this is. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just let me go back to where you are. I can't find you on my computer because I have so many windows open.
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
I'm seeing you.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm in very good company.
Right.
I could list the 120 countries in this world. I think there are only 80 countries that have decided to call a day, which is really a themed day for men's issues, to call it International Day. I think I'm in good company with 120 countries around the world that see this as a non-starter. I think I'm in good company with the United Nations that refuses to acknowledge a day in which men are claiming to be victims. And the list is endless. My position on this is it's a good thing. I have had, in my advocacy in the courts, I will provide assistance to young boys, young men who, for example, fall into the clutches of the criminal justice system. The statistics say that male ages 18 to 35, and I think in some jurisdictions they extended to 45. 18 to 35, these are the ages at which men commit criminal offenses. Yeah, that's sociological data.
Right.
It's not anything peculiar or special that men somehow fall into a trap and commit crimes when they are within that age. The penological statistics tell us this is the age at which men commit offenses. I believe that we should have a day, for example, a men's health day. That could be a day in which men, for example, attend the doctor's office. I remember in New York, we used to have a day of women take your husbands to the doctor, right? Because men, as you know, are notorious for just not taking care of their health.
Right.
There's a man who I think boasted that he was 70 years old and he only went to the doctor once.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I forgot who actually did this in New York, but it was
Dr. Roy Hastic was involved in that.
it was Roy Hastic.
Yeah.
That's right. Roy had a day in which it was for women, take your husband to see the doctor. I think that's a good initiative. The increasing enrollment of boys in school. I think that's a great thing to have a day in which men who have fallen off the rails in terms of their attendance in their participation rates in higher education, it's really awful now, right?
Right.
We see, for example, in the professions, especially in my line of work. And I think the doctors are saying the same thing in medicine. You see so many younger women who are aspiring in the professional ranks and men falling off the rails. Is that a function of some gender inequality? Is it some oppression that men have suffered where someone is actually, some systematic reasons have arisen to keep men away from the professions, from schools, say in the way that men kept women away from schools, that men kept women away from participating in the workplace, the way that men refuse women equal pay now today, the way that men keep women away from even worshiping women. You think you'll see a female pope anytime soon? The way that the Catholic Church prevents women, for example, from participating in religious worship. And this is universal. We see it whether you are a Jew, a Christian, a Muslim. You see that there is a ceiling above which women cannot rise.
Right.
Even control of their own bodies. I mean, who is preventing men? Maybe some people would say that men need to be, maybe there need to be something to stop them from being fathers, because so many men are just irresponsible in the way they father their children. Yeah. I think we
Right.
could have a day where men are educated on the responsibility of fatherhood.
Right.
But is there anything systemic that is stopping men from being the best that they could be, the way
Right.
that men
Right.
have stopped women
Okay.
from being the best that
Stick,
they could be?
stick a
I
pin
heard
right
a
there.
minister of government in Grenada refer to gender inequality
Right.
and to end the discrimination against men. You know, as Cornel West says, you got to get off the crack pipe, because it is absolutely certain there is nothing. I mean, I'm in the camp, brother. I'm not on the opposite side of anybody on this issue.
Right.
We must know the role that men are not in any way oppressed.
Jerry, stick a pin right there. Stick a pin right there, because I wanna have Mr. Fields respond.
No, you can have him on. He had a whole day yesterday.
No,
I
no.
just want a few more minutes. Yes.
I want him to
Yes.
respond. I
Let
want
me
him to
say this.
respond.
No, let me say this. Let me continue.
No.
I don't have the time that they have. Let
Yeah.
me say this. That my basic point is that, as opposed to groups that the world recognizes, and let's call it what it is, women. Women have been under the feet of men since time immemorial. In the theater of life, men have had the front seat, front row. Nobody has ever stopped men from achieving their dreams. I am fully in support of theme days for men, like all human beings.
Right.
You know, being better persons. I would support that. I do support that. But do not raise it to the level where men are somehow discriminated. I think this is the issue I have.
Right.
the core
Okay.
issue. And
That-
I'll stop here.
That's a point right there. So let me give Mr. Fields an opportunity to respond. Is it that we're celebrating Men Day because the men are being discriminated on? Mr. Fields, what's your take and what's your response to Mr. Edwin's points?
We celebrate it for both reasons. We celebrate the day for itself to celebrate manhood and manhood's contribution that we have thus far. And also we celebrate it because there are situations where men are disadvantaged. I'm very surprised my learned friend seems not to know of the systems where men are disadvantaged. So maybe I should educate him a bit. He made a point, and I'll start where he kind of finished, that he was surprised again about the inequality that some men face. And in 2018, we would have embarked with us on a study with the European Union. And the name of that project was called Fatherhood and the Inequality Faced when it comes to parenting their children. We would have done a study at the family court because it was the perception always by men that they are being shortchanged when they go to court. You have a society that have told men to step up. You have a society that have told men to be better fathers. And that very same society is a society that has told men that paternity leave should not be more than 3 days. And while their wives are 3 months, sometimes their wives have C-sections and the men have to help them. A society that has the non-custodial parent, which is 90% of the times, well, actually statistically in Trinidad, when we did the study, 60% of the times, they are non-custodial parents, even when they and the mother are on equal footing, even when they both had applied for custody, the mother on nothing based more than her gender was issued custody. In those cases, there were only 8% shared parenting ordered, even though both mother and father were competent enough and safe enough for the children to be able to be with either parent. So we would have identified another issue. So that is the court system I'm showing you where there's currently a bias against men. Let me show you the social system as well. In the social system in 2017, we had to overturn not even what was a policy, but what was culture. Fathers of children, single-led homes, were unable to receive public assistance for one reason: their gender, and because they were viewed as the head of the home. So even if the mother would have died and the mother used to contribute to the income, the fathers were not allowed and were told that they were unable to earn, were able to apply and receive public assistance. When we examined the law said nothing of these sorts, nothing close to these sorts. The law had that any parent that would have fallen on hard time, supporting parent may have died, or the parent may have been injured, should be able to apply for public assistance on behalf of their children. So every child, boy and girl, that had or lived in a single father-led home were not allowed to access this public assistance. This is data, this is facts, so that is the social welfare system we're talking about. I could give you stats from our country again. 94% of the persons in our capital city that are homeless are men. There is 0 shelters for males, whether they be young boys or whether they be men in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm not sure if you all have in Grenada. I didn't see or hear that you all have any there either. My good friend himself just made mention of some of the issues, and possibly if he had attended the event, he would have realized some of the challenges that even boys face and men face in the healthcare system. When Dr. Francis so eloquently lamented that over 20 years he's been doing research in Grenada and realizes that from the time a boy at the age of a boy and a girl starts their life, the life expectancy is similar until they get to the age of 5, because there are so many wellness checks developed in the health system for girls when there are not any for boys. Hence the reason, as he rightly said, many men don't feel inclined to go to doctor, and it is because on routine there's no stop gaps or no checkpoints that encourages them to go. As he made mention of the cycle. When you're getting your menstrual cycle, she may go for a cramp, but when she goes for that abdominal cramp, the doctor gets to check all the other things as well. He said at 21, when she becomes sexually active, it is promoted that she do a pap smear. So because of this, she comes to do the pap smear and he checks everything else again. He made mention again of when she was pregnant, she would come and should have to see the doctor possibly every month. At that point in time, the doctor gets the opportunity to examine the woman once again, right? He made mention of criminal behavior and of the youth that getting involved into criminal behavior, which to me is testimony that he is acknowledging also that men are the most murdered. Yes, he may say men also are the most murderous, but nonetheless, they are still victims and the most murdered. In our country, where murder has gone up exponentially, 605 persons were murdered last year. 90.7% were men, 550. Let's talk about suicide. In our country, in Trinidad and Tobago, and I am certain to other nations, we only have the statistics in our country because people like myself advocate and find them. If he did so in Grenada, I'm pretty sure he may see very alarming numbers as well. Between 2019 to 2021, there was 260 suicides, 70.9%. 260 suicides by men, sorry, which is 70.9% of the suicide victims in Trinidad and Tobago. I cannot understand for anything why my good friend would not see where we've spoken about suicide, where we've spoken about health, where we've spoken about, he made mention of education of boys being left behind. As I made mention before, I sit on the Telecommunication Authority Board, and I have seen many a time that many girls, there are many programs that are set up in the education system. I was on the Child Protection Task Force as well, where many things strategically was driven by policy to advance women and girls, to make sure that women and girls have opportunity, make sure that women and girls propel. But many of these same programs that also could have benefited boys were left out. Closing gender gaps, to me, is creation of opportunity for all. Any diverse gap. For you to close that gap, it means that you must give the other person an opportunity too, whether it be gender or whether it be race. That is how we close our gender gap. But we've closed gender gaps for years by advancing women and girls and not being concerned with men at all. Studies continue to persist when it's in benefit of girls, when it's in benefit of women. Ask for the studies with men and boys, and they're never there. Nobody asks for them, and then they say that it's non-existent and men don't have issues. But if you get researchers to do the research, because we've tried through the IGDS, and they purposely would have told me in my face, just like Paco would have told Dr. Francis, that they are not interested at this point in time with research when it comes to men. They are researching issues when it comes to women and girls. So how would you know what issues men have to have them rightfully addressed? He spoke about also maintenance, or men who don't mind their children and take care of their children. I am surprised he also didn't mention paternity fraud, because I want to know in this modern day age, if, and I know as a lawyer he knows, for a man to assume paternity, it is still more so presumptuous. If he is married to the woman, the child automatically becomes his. Or if he signs the birth paper, the child automatically becomes his. But I can tell you from my experience and give you many a testimony and give you many a video to play here right now, where I have worked with fathers who were arrested for maintenance, and when we did the paternity test, the children were never theirs. And the mothers admitted that they knew the children were never theirs. But there are no laws for paternity fraud.
Right.
And because there are no laws for paternity fraud, the person is allowed to get away. And men have been incarcerated for children that aren't theirs in a day where we have DNA testing.
Right. Okay, so hold on one day, Randall. Guys, we're talking here about International Men Day and should it be celebrated. Now, a mouthful said there by Randall. Is it that the society has created institutions and procedures to keep men behind, or is it that men themselves have not taken up the responsibility among themselves to advance their lives and to advance whatever objective because women take it on. We'll see in many cases, women have higher ownership of vehicles. Women mostly have the better jobs. Women are less in prison, right? Men are more the ones that are. We went to the prison and we saw it. There was 400 and something male and 7 women.
But right along,
is it
that's not the narrative. When they speak the narrative, they continue to say that women are still behind. Even when the statistic, that is exactly the ICT program that we brought in this International Men's Day conference. The narrative, when we were doing ICT for girls for the last decade in Trinidad and Tobago, the narrative from the board members that girls were behind. When we did the digital inclusion survey in 2021, because I told them the perception I had that boys were behind. What I perceived was true. And that is when Trinidad started now to do ICT for boys as well. Because the boys were actually behind the girls because it was a decade of ICT training. ICT is an important tool for youth at this point. Cybersecurity, these kind of things, artificial intelligence. We were purposely leaving our boys out on the premise that they were more advanced than the girls, but no data to support it. Let
me get Jerry to chime in here. Jerry, a mouthful again said there by Mr. Fields.
This data that he has just cited, this is the data from what? The last, everything you have just said is data collected from what? The last 20 years?
20 years?
30 years? 40, the data you have just cited. 30 years, 40 years?
I called the years that I just cited them. I said 2021 for the digital inclusion survey. I told it 2018.
5 years, 10 years.
Come again?
10 years. 10 years maybe? 10 years this data has shown how men have fallen behind? Or do you think it's 20 years?
No, the last 10 years or so. Like, and I would say this is only when we're beginning to request it. And I'm certain Trinidad may be one of the only questions that has this data. I am certain you don't have that in Grenada because you haven't been requesting it. The last data I gave you pertaining to health with Dr. Francis is 20 years ago he was talking about. He said it took them 20 years to get the life expectancy of men to increase from the 60s to 71.
Yes. Well, I could tell you, I remember I'm very familiar with what happens in urban US. We have men, for example, who were prohibited from when they come, let's say they have served a time, they have fallen into the clutches of the criminal justice system.
Right.
These men, for example, could not even go to live with their families, because if the men go to live with their families, then the government would take away the housing of that family.
Right.
Yeah? Right. Yeah, I think that we can go for the last 30 years even,
right,
and find disparate treatment of men.
Right.
Are you saying that men are, from what you have just listed, men seem to be a victimized category? That seems to be what you're saying. All the things you have listed men,
right,
as being a victimized category. We could agree with that?
Of course, based on the gender.
I never thought in my wildest dreams that after 500 years, after knowing the world as we know it, you know, the first country to give rights to a woman, like, why was it necessary to give women rights? Why was it? Why was it necessary?
I didn't hear you.
I'm asking, brother. Why do you think it was necessary for women to receive rights? Let's just take the 20th century. In the 20th century, why do you think it was necessary for women to receive rights? For example, the right to vote.
Hello?
I'm here.
Okay. Are you hearing Fields, are you hearing me?
I think his mic.
Okay. All right. Let me get Fields. Fields, I want you to go back out and come back in. I think he sent him a message. Guys, we're talking here live with Mr. Jerry Edwin and Mr. Randall Seals. We're talking about the importance of the celebration for the International Men Day. Jerry Edwin has been very vocal against the celebration or supporting the International Men Day. Mr. Fields was a part of the celebration. In fact, he traveled from Tobago as we went in the 3 days of events and conference. One of the instances in that conference, we were able to go into the prison where we learned a startling discovery that in the 400, 500 plus population of the prison, there were 400 plus men that are prisoners at that prison, and there are 7 women. 7 women. The highest amount of female prisoners in that prison, right, was 22. 22, just a few years ago. 22 was the highest, right?
Yeah, wait. You want to put more women in jail? You want the same amount of
No,
women?
I'm not saying putting more women in jail, but I'm just saying what the statistics are. What the statistics are. The
The
statistic is that,
statistics
yeah,
are that more men commit crimes.
right. So that's what I'm saying. So then,
Sociologically, that is a fact. You'll see the result
right,
in incarceration rates.
right.
You
So what
see,
I'm
this
saying
is
is that.
global.
So what I'm saying
This
that
is a
Houston we have a
global.
problem. What I'm saying is that
These
Houston we have a problem because the population of men in prison is about 100. Well, I don't know why. Yeah, the population of men in prison is extremely high. The ratio is extremely high compared to women. Mr. Fields, could you hear us?
Yeah, I'm hearing you again. I
If,
didn't hear what was
if
said just now.
yeah, if you get disconnected, you will just have to recycle again and go back out and come back in. Mr. Fields, you were saying before you got disconnected.
No, he wasn't saying.
Oh,
I
you
was
were
No,
saying.
he was saying. I was listening to what he was saying. Something about
Yes.
500 years
What
ago.
I was
Right.
saying, brother, what I was saying is that you have enumerated a number of points.
Right.
The conclusion I can draw from the things you are saying is that men have been victimized. Yes?
But of
So that
course,
we see, well, can you tell me
mm,
when the victimization of men started? Just give me any period in history. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 500 years ago. When did this mass victimization, when did men become victims? And I take it they are victims of women, right? They're not victims of other men, right? They are victims of women.
no, I didn't say that. That they're not victims of other men. Let me tell you when men became victims, because
Yes, tell me.
I realize you continue to say women had suffered at the hands of men. But I love to see that,
Women and children.
yes,
These
yes,
are
women
global
and children, but have been marginalized by men. But I want to ask you which men? Because if my memory serves me good, and if you talk
No,
about
brother,
500
this is
years,
not.
I could tell you about a vast number of men that have been marginalized and have suffered also. I would always ask you, if just 40 or 50 or 60 years ago, the same black man couldn't sit in the front of the bus where the white woman and white girl sat. So I'm asking you, which man,
Oh, come on,
wait
brother. The
one
black
second,
woman sat at
which
the back
man
too. Oh, come on.
marginalized?
The black woman was at the back too.
Wait, give me 1 second.
What?
Is it
No, I ain't
that
giving you no
men,
second
because
thought.
when you say
Boy, the
men,
black
you
woman
are
was
you are
at
referring
the
as
back
though
too.
you are talking about all men.
Let me
But
finish.
it is unfair to my ancestors. It is unfair for you to say that my ancestors have marginalized women when they themselves were marginalized by a group of powerful men. That group of powerful men that
Brother, don't
marginalized
conflate
women
race, brother.
and
You got to
marginalized other men as well. It is a small percentage of them. But when people continue to talk in this capacity, we now of today have inherited, and our women folk have been told that men have done them certain things. But the reality of it, men were marginalized in that same time, that same feminist move you're talking about. The black man was marginalized. He couldn't go in a store. He couldn't go in the front of a bus. He couldn't use a washroom. What isn't that marginalization and degradation as well?
All right.
It was
brother,
1% of men
Let me
that
get Jerry
had
to
all
respond.
the freedom and power to do everything.
Okay, let me
So
get Jerry to
I
respond.
think you are totally wrong when you say that.
All right.
in this
Okay.
way, brother. I will respond by telling you that you are conflating race and gender, because
Oh
women.
my.
Let me say, because black women were similarly
Mm.
marginalized during. They could only sit at the back of the bus along with their men.
Right. So won't the men sit in there too? So how were they marginalized by their men?
No, I said you are conflating race and gender, because all black people, all black people, men and women.
And that is my point. That is my point. But you are bringing it across as though it was the average man and every man that marginalized women. And that is
No,
false.
wait, no.
It was a powerful man go ahead. Sorry.
Right.
You go ahead.
I am not conflating race and gender in the way that you are. So I am not making the point that you are making. You are saying
But it
that
should be.
you are saying that during periods of racial strife, that black men were marginalized. I'm simply saying that is
Would
not.
they or would they not? Would they or would they not?
No, brother.
You just asked me when. You just asked me 1 second. You just asked me when in my life were men victims.
Okay,
You
Phil.
just asked me that.
Phil, hold
Put
on.
your thinking cap, please.
Okay.
Racial discrimination did not
What?
say that black women are going to be excluded from that discrimination.
Nobody said so.
It was
But
gender
what?
neutral. It was gender neutral, right? So the point so the point you're making, I don't
But
get
how
it.
does
It's
it pick up?
gender neutral. I was asking you, can you tell me why it was necessary for women to have the right, for example, to vote, or women have the right to equal pay?
Right.
Why
Who
do you
made those rules? That is my point. Was it the black man making those rules when he couldn't vote either? Was it the black man making those rules when he couldn't get equal pay either, together with the woman? At the same time, when the feminist movement became rampant, you are trying to make it sound like I am going into a race party. But the fact is, the point you are making is exactly what I am saying.
Okay.
It was not the black man. The black man didn't stop the white woman from voting. The black man didn't stop the women of those days from doing anything.
Hold on 1 second, guys. Let me ask you a question.
It's common sense.
Mr. Edwin. Okay, Jerry, sorry.
Yeah. I
Jerry,
didn't
go ahead.
realize it was International Black Men's Day. I thought it was International Men's Day. Yes?
Of course it is, but you're not listening to the point. You just asked me a question about when did men suffer. You just made a very broad statement to say men stopped women from voting. I am a man. They were men too. Martin Luther King was a man. Madiba was a man. When it had apartheid, these were men too. You are making a very broad statement in a situation that is not true.
But we have to be broad.
Even though they were African or Indian, they were men still.
We're not talking about black men or white men or Indian men. We're talking about all men.
But that is it. You cannot say all men. You have to specify when it comes to that. It's some percentage of men.
All right.
No, I get it.
Why can't we?
Let me say this. I was not aware that it was International Black Men's Day.
Nobody said it has to be International Black Men's Day. But what I am saying,
But you're arguing a racial point. I'm not. Let me be clear. I'm not.
We are arguing a point on marginalization.
Yeah.
No, brother. If I'm arguing a point on marginalization, then you cannot introduce race to divide. You cannot introduce race.
Why we cannot introduce it? Because you have no response to it?
Say again?
I don't understand why it cannot be introduced. It is the truth. You are saying that men did certain things. We today as men, despite of our race, are carrying a label of patriarchy upon us. Our boys are being left out of programs and girls advance. No matter if it's India, no matter if you're Negro, no matter if you're Chinese, based on the fact because there's a premise that men marginalized women before. So why are you coming to separate it now when all men are the recipients of this being left behind?
Oh, poor men. We are suffering so much.
Of course. The problem is many men feel it is an issue to say that they are vulnerable, and that is why they end up in trouble. That is why they end up in jail, because they don't want to ask for help. Because at the end of the day, They are not allowed. Yeah, on one breath, we say men be emotional, men show emotion, men ask for help. But on the next breath, we come and we call them coward. We come and say, oh, look, all they're suffering. We come and belittle them when they do. And then and then cannot understand why many a time they don't seek help until they already end up in trouble. Because of their gender. I just talked to you about paternity fraud. This is specific to gender. Has there been the paternity fraud has been taking place specific to gender? Still no legislative works being passed when it comes to paternity testing. Men being imprisoned, men being sent to jail for children that they never fathered. Men passing the generational wealth to children that they never fathered.
Right. Let me ask a question. Is it safe to say that some institutions was set up to marginalize men? Specific institution. Is it safe to make that argument? Jerry, on your side.
I could say so. If you are purposely leaving men out of certain things, just as he said, 120 persons and organizations, the United Nations decides to put wool at the toilet, they will not acknowledge Men's Day. What does it sound like? It means they will not advance any kind of support for study. It means they will not advance any type of support financially to support anything that has to do with men. Doesn't that sound like they're leaving men out?
I never
Are men not worthy of support because of a percentage of men marginalized women before?
Yeah.
That's the point my learned lawyer here is trying to make.
All right, let me get Jerry Edwin's point of it. I mean, I'll take the debate because I think we're learning a lot. Jerry?
I never thought that I would actually live to hear men say that they are victimized. I never thought so. But I want to fall back. No, wait, let me talk. I fall back to my original question. Can you tell me why it was necessary for women to receive rights as equal human beings to men? And I'm just going to go to the 20th century. Why do you think it was the 20th century that ushered in this equality of gender? Because I think you would agree with me that previous to the 20th century, women were in fact marginalized by men. You'd agree with that, yes?
I will agree with what I just said, which you don't accept, that women, as long as a group of men and other persons were marginalized by a group of men. I've said that before, and I stick to that. There's no way or no twang or no nice educated way you'll make me yield on that, because that is what happens. That is what history has recorded.
Brother, you are entitled to your point of view, you know. You are entitled to that. Yeah, all I'm saying is, can you say before the 20th century that men were marginalized by women? Let's go to 1900 if you'd like.
Okay.
Can you say that and no, we're not having a discussion about race, because we can have that discussion. Yes?
But you're trying to tell me what to have the discussion in and where and how and what happens and what's important.
I'm telling you that if we want to discuss racial oppression, we could discuss that. That is a different topic altogether. You would recognize that. What we are discussing are gender, right? Gender issues. That's why I thought it was a mistake for you to conflate for example, the discrimination against blacks before 1965 in the United States. So I'm only speaking generally about gender globally. Can you tell me in human history, I'm just going to the 20th century, when were men marginalized by women? And in fact, my start-off question that you didn't answer, brother, can you tell me why it was necessary, and I'll go down the list, for women to get the right to vote, to own property, to marry who they want? Can you tell me why equal pay? Can you tell me why it was necessary to do that?
Of course, because they were marginalized, you said, right, by a particular group, the group we have a disagreement with. But as with anybody else...
Wait, brother. Let's have an honest discussion.
I am having an
would
honest
you
discussion
agree?
with you, but
Would
you
you
see, you want
agree?
me to say what you
Wait,
want me to say.
no,
We are
no,
talking about,
I want you to say,
about,
no, listen. Then I'm
that,
confusing you.
you see,
Let
the
me clear
point
it
is
up.
this, you are
I'm,
asking me a question, if
I'm
it was
confusing.
women
I
that
believe that
marginalized, if it
I
was, listen, you're asking me if it was women in history that marginalized men. I never said that.
I
I
believe
never said that.
I
I
believe
said
that
men were marginalized together with women. There was a greater percentage of men that were marginalized together and alongside with women, whether it be slavery, whether it be
no,
no
let's
access to
not have
rights,
a
whether it
discussion
be
about race.
Okay, all right,
We
guys.
cannot have listen,
right
let
along.
us
Are you
Law
getting my
Jerry.
point?
yes, okay,
He
No,
okay.
is
my
he's
brother.
asking me if I am
No,
saying
my
men was
brother.
ever marginalized
My
by
brother.
women.
All right,
But
all
the
right.
thing is,
Time out,
it
We
time
doesn't
having a
matter.
discussion.
out, time
We
out,
got to put barriers around
time
the
out.
discussion.
Yes,
So
yes.
we
Time
don't
out,
just
time
keep
out, time
talking.
out, time out. Everybody drink a cup of water. Let's take a phone call. Caller, your life, where you calling us from?
It doesn't.
I'm I'm Trinidad and Tobago,
Trinidad and Tobago, go right ahead.
to be exact. Yes, man. Guys, I'm really a fascinating discussion, but I'm extremely disappointed in Edwin. Obviously, a lawyer who is not very good on research, because clearly the questions you're asking, I asked my 14-year-old.
Caller, hold on one second. Hold on one second. Caller, hold on one second. Caller, hold on 1 second. Am I on speaker? Are you on speaker? Are you on speaker? Because it's kind of chipping out your voice a little bit. If you could just take it off speaker if it's on speaker. Yeah, it'll be more direct, yeah. Yeah, go ahead, caller. Yes, caller, go ahead. All right.
I
Okay.
think you lost the caller, but let me make my
Yeah, no,
point.
hold
Because
on,
I
Jerry. No,
didn't
the
get a
caller call
chance
back.
to
The caller
make
call
it.
back. The caller call back.
I
Yeah,
was
I think
saying
what's
that
going back to the 1900s and the
hold on.
2000s.
No, guys. Hold on. I'll give all you a chance to make your point. But we have to entertain some of the calls. It's very important that we get the views of the viewers as well. So let me take this call here, and then I'll give you guys a chance to respond. All right? Caller, you live? You're back. Go ahead, caller.
You're in.
Yes.
Yes, man. So what I'm saying is that my little daughter do better research simply because Mr. has it right. If you are not marginalized, but if you yourself have been marginalized, even if people that marginalize you look like you in terms of gender, it does not make me see of this happen to you as a woman, because both were that way. Of course, law came about that made it of recognizing what happened to women. There's several reasons for it. There are reasons for it simply because, guys,
Caller, you're not very clear. You're really not very clear at all. Your phone is breaking up terribly, and it's difficult for us to follow.
try to call back.
Yeah, call back. Sorry about that.
No
Yeah.
problem.
All right. Yeah, we're not
again,
able to
I
hear the
think
caller.
if we
Hold
are
on.
going to
Yeah,
have a
Jerry, Edwin, go ahead. Jerry, Edwin, go ahead.
if we are going to have a discussion that is framed along gender issues, where this group has claimed that men are being discriminated against and marginalized, all I'm saying is that we cannot conflate that with issues with respect to race or ethnicity. Because if we are, then we certainly can have that discussion. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have that discussion,
Right.
because we can. I'm just saying if you are talking about gender issues, it is the historical record is clear. There has never been a point in time in which women prescribed who a man could marry. There's never been a point in history in which women withheld the right to vote from men or the right to own property. Yes, I think it is fallacious for us to extrapolate the experience of some men or even
Yeah.
some women, because you can go to Kerala in India, where I think Kerala must have gender performance at levels that exceed anywhere in the world. And India boasts about its women of Kerala. At the same time, it is known in India that women suffer the kind of gender inequality that, well, I don't have to go into it. My point is that if you look at the historical record, there has never been a point in time when men, and that's why I asked the good brother to give me a point in time. Don't give me your personal experience, because I will not give you mine. It's
Right.
irrelevant. We are speaking in general terms. I am not speaking about what happens in Trinidad or what happens in Grenada. We are speaking about the human family. The extent to which one gender has had its foot on the neck of another. So much so that the international community has recognized that in the 20th century, starting in the Soviet Union, by the way, in 1917, women had to be given rights that were denied them by men. You see, I would just take the Colombian era. I would just take the last 500 years, because the historical record shows that, yes, all human beings have problems, but women as a group have been oppressed from being their full human selves by men. That's what the record shows. This is not to say that men aren't falling off in schools, men aren't falling off as dads. It means that there are women who are not good parents too, you know. But that's not the point. We are speaking generally about the way that we have emerged as a human family. Now we are in the 21st century. And by the way, in the 21st century, as we speak, women do not have equal pay with men. Now, you might point to a specific case in Trinidad or some sector that you're familiar with and say, no, look, there's gender parity here. I'm not saying that you cannot take the specific or the exceptional and point to it, but that's not the rule. Exceptions don't make rules. We look at the general. We look at the general, not the specific. Men, I will continue to say, have never sat in the back row of human experience. Never. Now, if some men feel that, you know, I don't like the fact that my home I cannot enter because of a government policy.
Right.
I could unite with that. I agree with that. That's wrong. If we are saying that and I fight for these rules every day. Look, I'm fighting the fact that only men are flogged. We have flogging rules in our criminal code in Grenada. And the discriminatory nature of this means, the way they wrote it, only men get flogged. This is a travesty. Yes? Does this mean that society marginalizes men and discriminate? The law is discriminatory. We can go to, look, we even have a law where the way it's written, it says that men are, in sexual offenses, it always refers to the offense which the man commits. Look, I live in the world. I've heard all these arguments about men getting the short.
But my point is right along.
Yes. Before I give you
my point is, you are stating all the reasons today that we are stating. All the reasons why this must not continue. You can't say because, I don't know what the point you're trying to prove to me is because a percentage or a past man, a past man would have done things to women so that now, after we've realized that, thank God, and changed our behavior to the benefit of women, that when we see that it may be tipping over on the other scale, you yourself are identifying issues that men are having that should not be, but yet you are still acting as if they deserve it. Or you are still acting as if this what is expected because this is what a group of men did to society before. So I still don't understand what was the value for going back there to say what that past colonialist man did to society. So I am asking you now, because clearly you agree, because you yourself are identifying issues of social issue, of health issue, of mental health issue, where men are being left behind, educational issue, where you are saying a penal issue, as you just made mention of with the flogging. I just made issue paternity issues, and I don't understand if you, even though I am telling you that men are being incarcerated wrongfully, men are being left out of social programs, boys are being left out of educational programs because of their gender, and you seem to think pitching back or proving who was the marginalizer or marginalizer between men and women back in the days is justification for this retribution.
Right. But what?
And it's not making sense to me. This is exactly why we haven't. Remember why we're here? You know? We are here to speak on the value of International Men's Day. And the International Men's Day, we raise these issues. Many issues you yourself just raising. You just said you have no problem with a day for mental health for men. Those are things that are discussed on International Men's Day. Possibly if you involve yourself, brother, you would understand and possibly lend your competent state and help your brothers.
Yeah. My brother, I do not need a day to elevate men in order to help them. Okay? So
what is the issue with what is the issue then? What is the issue then? Wait. So are we not beneficiary today? Despite what you are saying about that group of men, because I'm not saying all men still, that marginalized persons, right? Aren't we not still beneficiary of certain types of technology, certain types of learning, certain types of things that are developed by men, and many men who did not do those things to women? Facebook, developed by Mark Zuckerberg, he didn't marginalize women. Aren't you a beneficiary of these things today? A lot of the technology. Aren't you beneficiary of men that go down into tunnels, and men who set up infrastructure, men who pick up your garbage, men who pull your seine, so then who pull seine to bring in fish? Why can't we celebrate? Why? Even if, give me 1 second, even if we were to just celebrate men for their biological contribution to the continuation of this world, we should be glad for manhood. Because if men weren't here, the world wouldn't exist. Men are part of the reason why the world exists, why the world has continued for years and years and years. So even if that is reason, we have a world, today is the World Day of the television. You ain't talking about that. So what is the issue? If we have a World Day for men, talk about issues for men, than to come here and say such confidence that me as a man and 120 other people or organization support that we should never have a day for a man. Why? Because of the past man you're talking about?
No, brother.
Who none of us know?
Let me explain why.
I'm not seeing the justification for you saying that. Up to now, I want you to tell me what is the justification that we should not have an International Men's Day, despite all the contribution we've had from men who have not marginalized women. What is your justification for saying that those men who for decades have not been a part of that marginalization of women era you're talking about back in the old days? Why can't we celebrate them and address the issues that those men are facing? Are they to suffer for the men gone by and the things they did, many of them not even being their ancestors?
Yeah.
Answer that.
All right.
That argument, for example, that's the same argument the people who deny us reparations for our slavery period say. It wasn't me. It was these other people. I was not involved.
I went a lot broader than that. Don't go back to race there at all, brother. Don't go back to race at all because you want to run away from there. I am saying the men, despite the race, who for decades have not marginalized women. You agree there's a percentage of men now. We know we voted. There are men who have voted for for prime ministers that are women. There are men that have supported women to drive, taught women to do all kind of things, have voted for female presidents and vice presidents. So those men who we are now identifying, those men and boys who have challenges, who have issues, many of which you yourself stated, do you have a problem with us highlighting those issues, like paternity fraud, like false accusations, when false allegations are made against them to extort money out of them or to win custody hearings? Do you have an issue with that? These things are things that are taking place today. Or when men are being left out of social programs, when boys are being left out of educational programs because it's only developed for women and girls. When boys and the education system, as my body Ted loves to say, is created and developed in a way to teach girls better than to teach boys. A lot of these sentences. are structured in a way that is empowering to girls and hateful to boys.
Right.
Jenny is a good girl. Johnny is a bad influence.
But
In your English book.
I want to get, hold on, let's get Jerry to speak on it. But hold on 1 second. Why do we have to put men against women
Exactly.
a day? I mean, we
Man, it's women marginalized men. We don't care about that. We want to celebrate the day together. It doesn't make a difference who did what before. It's time to share that. You being like you old man. At the end of the day, it's a time when it's International Women's Day. Men come out and support women, despite the fact that they enjoy International Men's Day.
Right.
They come out and help them. They come out and say Happy International Women's Day,
Right.
Women's Day, ladies. What is the curse? What is the curse to do that for those men who have not marginalized women?
How about
You tell me what the curse in that?
celebrate and empower men? How about to celebrate and empower men? Because
I
we
don't understand what's the problem with that.
celebrate and empower men. Jerry, would you be okay with that? To empower men?
My brother, men have always been empowered. What kind of nonsense are we? What kind of thing? What are we saying here? Men have
We
always been
identify
empowered.
all these things just now with homelessness. So many social issues, and we are still saying men is boss. We still say men is boss when it's the most men that are homeless, the most person homeless are men.
Let me
Phil,
talk.
let him speak. Let him speak for a second.
Let me speak. You can discuss an issue today that affect you. We are not speaking of the exceptional cases. Remember this. We are speaking generally. Brother, we are speaking generally. No, just listen to me. I heard you. I want you to listen to me. Don't talk while I'm talking, brother. Please, let's try. I will try, you try. What I am saying is that the recognition of international days have arisen, and we're just talking about the gender days, not the television or the toilet, to recognize women, because the historical record, I would say again, Mr. Fields, before I was born and before you were born, and before our fathers were born. And I am actually surprised that this idea of men being marginalized. Now, there's a conflation here, like that because men have problems, because they have experienced disparities in education, healthcare, and on, and we could go on. And in truth, we could go on with women too, all the issues they've had. That's not what we're talking about. It is not whether women have problems or whether men have problems. Please trust me. I do this work every day. Men have problems. Women have problems. But that's not what we're talking about. What we are saying is, because listen, the litany of problems that face men, boys, girls, women have these problems. But that is not what, at least not what I am talking about. I am saying to have a day in which, along the lines of which the United Nations convene these special days, they are intended to recognize marginal groups who now have some semblance of rights. That's why I go back. Can you tell me why it was necessary for women to have the right to vote? Men were never excluded from voting. Yes? And now I'm speaking generally, yeah? Because the rule in the Western world, and that's where we are in the Atlantic world, you had to have property to vote if you are a man. But even if a woman had property, which she could not in the post-Columbian world have in her own name until the 20th century, then women were given right to own property, to vote. Again, I'm asking, has there ever been a point in time when men were denied the rights of their full humanity like women? Just do that comparison for me and tell me when.
Right. So let's bring in Mr. Fields to respond to that question. Mr. Fields, I want you to respond to that question in a short. Don't respond yet because we have a call on the line. Let's take that call. Caller, you're live. Where are you calling us from?
Yeah, good night. How you doing?
Hey, good night, caller. Where you
And good
calling
night
us
to
from?
you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Go right ahead.
Okay. All right. So I came in late on this, but I kind of as what's been discussed and everything. My thing is right. While I understand what Mr. J is saying, I agree with him to some point where women were mistreated and degraded in some societies. Even in the 21st century, we have things taking place. However, my problem is this. Why is that as a society we are trying to fix the issues and about equal rights for women and different aspects of different avenues to basically make life for women much better. And we're neglecting what men is already facing and making it even worse.
Correct.
I want to say because I myself as a man, I am so disgusted with the way society looks at us as men. It brings me back to a situation I experienced a few weeks ago, just a few months ago. I was in church. Church was celebrating was Men's Day, right? Could you believe that even in the church, we as men are looked at as dogs, as nothing, as we have no value? And I stood up and I said, listen, growing up, every time you hear about Father's Day or Men's Day or something, it's all some kind of negative stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that some men, we put reputation out there and we have to face that. However, why is that we are so focused on negative when it comes to men rather than focus on the the increase in especially our fathers in men in general who are out there trying to do their best, trying to be different. And the slow is this. I grew up with my father, or I grew up a particular way and I don't want that for my future, so I'm gonna do better. Right? Why is it that we are so hell bent on men and looking at them in this negative light? And for all, the system is designed to keep us.
Right.
It's a shame. It's a shame.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so
I
much.
mean, I understand what Mr. J is saying.
Yes.
It's a shame, and I think that it's about time
So
to come
a
together
system is
and
created by
work
women
together.
to keep men down.
Can I speak?
Thank you,
Can
caller.
I speak?
I really want to get input. I know you guys have responded.
This borders on the ridiculous.
Yeah.
You see, this is, I don't get to respond. You
Yeah.
ask me a question and I can respond.
All right.
Men,
So let's put some
I'm
few.
taking it now. I'm taking the
Let-
question.
Can I respond to the
Take it.
question
No,
he
I
asked?
am responding to
All right.
him.
Let me respond.
I
Hold
am
on.
responding. You have your chance to
No,
respond to
hold on.
him.
Why I get my chance? It
Hold on.
was my chance to respond. I'm going to
No,
lose
you're
my
gonna
train of
respond
thought.
to him.
Okay,
You're gonna respond to the caller. Don't worry.
just presume that I am the judge in this courtroom right here, right?
Yes.
Um, Jerry,
My lord, can I have my opportunity to speak,
you
please?
asked Mr. Phil a question. Let him
Thank you.
respond to the question, and then you're going to respond to the caller. That's fine.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Phil, go right ahead.
Thank you. Right? He spoke about any time period. When was there any time period in history that men were marginalized? I told him the time period when there were men marginalized together with women. That is a fact. Whether you said they were marginalized because of their race or they were marginalized because of their gender, the things you asked and specified, that group of men were not allowed to vote, were not allowed to do any of the things that you just said before as well. So it is anybody's guess if they were marginalized, whether they were marginalized for their gender, whether they were marginalized for their race, they were still marginalized and it still was wrong. And that's possibly why feminism and activism for freedom from apartheid and black persons' rights possibly came in around the same time, because there was a great group of men that were marginalized at the same time as those women. That answers that question. Whether you want to talk about conflating or whatever, it is the truth of the fact, and that is what it is.
Okay.
Talking about
I want to give Mr. Edwin an
No,
opportunity
is
as
it,
well.
I had to answer the next part because this is important,
Okay.
right? He's
Right.
talking about how are men being marginalized now. Marginalization is when the system stands against you. I am telling you by statistic and research, not only in Trinidad, across the board, that when a mother and a father on equal footing comes to the court system, because of the mother's gender, she is given the advantage to be the, because it is believed or perceived socially, she is the better caretaker of the child automatically, with both being on the same footing. Right? One issue. I gave you again another social issue that was created by culture again, where men are left out when it comes to receiving social welfare assistance. They are the last to get it. It's always women and children first. If it's social relief, men are always put to the back, no matter how vulnerable they are. Don't you know there are PWD men, person with disabilities as well? So not because they are male, it doesn't mean that they must not be able to access these benefits also. So they are not, I told you about the system where it comes to the legislative works that are missing, where it is still law that a man who marries a woman, she becomes pregnant and he's automatically the father. He signs a birth paper. These things predated paternity leave. At this point, there's still no legislative reform, and that because of that failure in the legislative works has created a system of a number of men doing two things. Don't tell me it's exceptions, because I have plenty cases to show you. Many men have been in prison for maintenance, or even if they haven't been imprisoned, they have been taking care of children that aren't theirs and passing their generational wealth to children that are not their biological children. That could never be fair. We are faced in a system when a man and a woman, a man has earned this property possibly while the woman is earning hers as well. She's fought for the equal right to do so. The man and the woman come together with their own earnings. She is allowed to leave with hers and many times half of his also. So it isn't always a situation where there's a housewife and the housewife, because she earns a constructive trust, would now automatically earn part of the receive part of the man's property.
Right.
In many cases, men are ejected out of their houses just because they are deemed demand. And if there are systems that are causing these disadvantages against men, then it is a form of marginalization.
Okay. All
Your
right.
gender not supposed to stop you from receiving opportunity. That is creating a next gender gap.
Let me get Mr. Edwin's response to that. And I really apologize. We have to have a very hard stop in about 3 minutes. So let's try to keep it within that confinement.
Let me say this. Anecdotal evidence of men falling victim to law, or men falling, being victims of one public policy or the other. I think that we can say that this is true of both genders. This is true of men and women. But I am speaking now on the issue not of black men or white men, all men. Because women could not, in this Atlantic world, could not, in the Western world, could not own property before men, could not vote before men. They couldn't, in fact, it's still the case, they cannot even be paid equally to men. Women cannot even worship equal to men. If we want to cherry pick issues and say, yeah, as I did, flogging discriminates against men. We have constitutions that ban discrimination. This is a gender bias. We need to end it. I agree. If in the human experience, someone can tell me, and I'm not talking about your experience, Brother Fields, or any other callers. I am speaking generally. We are speaking of the general human family, not what happens in Trinidad, or what happens in New York, or what happens in Grenada. We are speaking now of the world. Can you please tell me why it was necessary I fall back to, because you're not answering it, brother. Why was it necessary to give women the same rights that men had for years? And has anybody tried to take away those fundamental rights from women? From men, I'm sorry.
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
That is, are you
And,
getting my point
and
right,
there's no
along?
reason I keep
He is
repeating it.
telling me to answer a question when I am aware that a group of men did not have the rights he is saying they had when women didn't have it. There was a group of men that didn't have the rights at the same time. So
Which
you
men?
cannot make
Which
me
men?
Hold on.
Which
exclude
men?
the truth
Which
or the
men?
fact that
No,
there
which
was
men?
a group of men alongside those women that you are lobbying for now that didn't have those rights as well. Am I to not mention them and only say it was only women it was happening to, when historically that is false? It is false. What you're saying is false. Women weren't the only ones suffering from that injustice. Women weren't the only ones suffering from that at that point in time. There
Right.
was a vast group of the population that suffered along with women. So that is why I'm saying specify the men that made that group of men and women suffer. All the things you talk about, voting, doesn't it sound like that? Doesn't it sound to you that anything that the women who were diverse in gender suffered it, and the men who were diverse possibly in race suffered it? You don't find it sound like it was a plan? Because
Right.
if the two groups suffered the same thing, you don't
No,
find it sound like it was planned to do so? Or
Okay.
you want me to not mention that those they couldn't work in
no,
certain
there's
places? They,
no. You said
Okay.
diversified in gender. Exactly. What do you mean diversified in gender? You misspoke there. Is that, did you misspeak when you said
no, no.
diversified
What
in
I'm
gender?
saying,
Okay.
I from the beginning I've always said it's a percentage of men. I am saying, obviously they are men, so they were diverse to women by gender. I am saying also there was another group of men that though they were similar to them in gender, they were diverse to them in race. And they both suffered together. So when you tell me if there was any point in time that men suffered and didn't have these things, and you don't want me to mention those men, you are telling me to forget about what my ancestors went through, to forget about those men who I am sure suffered with the women, those men who saw some of the same, who were hung and lynched at the same time in the view of their women and children.
Right.
That is what you telling me to do? They couldn't vote. Martin Luther and them fight for that.
There you
Madiba
go
fight
with
for that
race
and went to
again.
Yeah.
jail for it.
There you
So
go
you
with race
cannot tell me
again.
to exclude these men and
Yes,
say
you
men.
cannot discuss a gender issue and say,
Okay.
I am going to
All
take this
right, okay,
issue.
okay.
I'm
That's
going
You
to
all
take
don't
this
understand that
race.
perspective.
that's a
No,
But
fine.
you understand what I mean. I'm
That's a
sure
fine.
you understand what I mean.
no, listen. No. We're having a discussion here, brother. I'm telling you what I disagree with. I'm saying that if you want to discuss the plight of black men versus other men, we can have that discussion. That is not a gender neutral issue. I thought we were having a gender neutral discussion. Yes, I'm not talking about black and white. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying there's a reason why the United Nations has refused to set aside a day to celebrate men. That does not mean men do not have social issues, that they are not systemic matters that they face. A father can come on this program and tell you things that he observed. I, as a lawyer, can tell you I see problems that men have the way the law is written. But that is not what we are speaking about, because no, I can nitpick each little issue. But is there anybody would disagree that it is women who have raised the human family? Is there anybody who would disagree that generally, no, Brother Fields, that it was not women who passed the culture on of the particular ethnic group, don't mix it up with race, to their family? Or is not women generally who spread culture? I mean, sociologists have written tomes about this.
Right. Right. Okay.
Yeah, this is something that, so if the only thing I'm saying is this, listen, there is no period in time, and do not exclude for race or geography. There is no period in human history in which men, as we come into the modern age, had their rights denied and had to be given to them.
Right.
That is only true with women because of the historical record.
All right.
I don't think that's deniable.
Okay, so let's just end there on that note, Jerry. And Mr. Fields, just give me your final closing words. I have to end here. We may, and I would beg you guys if we could do this another time again. Some very good points. I think that there was a lot discussed here, and it's important. It's an important conversation. Mr. Fields, just give me your last wrap-up words. 30 seconds.
My wrap-up point is that at the end of the day, I have not been convinced in any way that it is not an important day to celebrate. As I said, to celebrate the contributions of men thus far, and also to identify the issues that are existing and where men are actually being left behind, so that men and women could find a place that they could work together, so that the place will be a better place for all in society. Right. Any man that isn't operating at his highest capacity is a greater threat and danger to women and other men.
Absolutely.
So definitely, I endorse International Men's Day. I don't think my learned friend has made any relevant point to say that it is irrelevant in my view, and that's my take.
All right. Okay. So the viewers had an opportunity to chime in as well. So in the public perspective, I did put the question out there to all the viewers, and we had 14 votes to, which is 19% of the total votes cast. Supported Mr. Jerry Edwin's idea, and we had 81% or 61 votes that represented and supported Mr. Fields' idea on the topic.
The idea is not well conceived. The idea that men have problems, all of us, I agree. I do more work around men's issue than this young man here.
Right.
I agree.
Yes,
I'm positive about that, brother.
Right.
I know that men have issues. Men have issues.
Right.
That's not that is not the discussion. We could frame it like that, and pinpoint. I can tell you about more issues that men have. I don't think this young man went down the list here. Men have issues, but the point is, men's rights. Men have never had their rights taken from them.
Right.
Jesus
but we
Christ.
cannot deny that men need to be empowered.
To realize. Men have never had their rights taken from them. And to participate in a discussion in which a man says, I am victim. I mean, it's like we living in a topsy-turvy world. Who took rights from men? Women?
Right. Okay.
Men are discriminated against?
That might be a good start to part 2 of the discussion.
Yeah,
Jerry Edwin,
second discussion,
thank you. Jerry, I appreciate you. You took your time to come and chat with us. Mr. Fields, I appreciate you as well. Doing a great job out there in Tobago. Guys, let's take a quick break, a wrap up, and I'll come back with my final closing words. We'll be right back. Don't move.
Okay, brother.
I want you folks to play these 3 games from the NLA. Daily pick 3 cash flow and play with. You will be supporting sports and culture, nation building and our future. So go out and play, folks, make it a must. You will see what the National Lottery is doing for us. When you play pick 3 cash flow and play with, the NLA will support you all the way.
Starting September 30th, Monday to Friday, these 3 games will be drawn mid-morning, 9:45 a.m., midday, 12:45 p.m., and evenings, 7:45 p.m. The National Lotteries, supporting sports, culture, and nation building.
Sunday money day.
The Ministry of Tourism and Economic Development and the Grenada Tourism Authority extend a warm welcome to visitors and returning nationals visiting for Carnival and summer vacation. We do hope you enjoy your stay with us, and we invite you to return with friends and family to celebrate our 50th anniversary of independence on 7th February 2024. Tourism is my business, your business, our business.
The government of Grenada, through the Ministry of Finance, is continuing the rollout of its tax amnesty initiative. The amnesty provides 100% waiver of all interest and penalties on all outstanding balances up to the end of December 2021. All taxpayers with outstanding tax balances and outstanding returns to file are encouraged to take advantage of this amnesty. All tax types administered by the division are eligible for tax amnesty. For further information on the tax amnesty, please contact the Inland Revenue Division at 435-6945 or 435-6946. Email tpshelpdesk@ird.gov.gd or visit our website ird.gd. Amnesty ends December 31st.
As we celebrate 50 years of independence, Made in Grenada presents the celebration of 50 years of Calypso. One stage, one show, Grenada's best Calypsonians performing Grenada's greatest hits. Sunday, February 11th, 2024 at 6 p.m. sharp, Grenada National Stadium. More information coming soon.
When the DJ play Peter Humphrey, she raise her hand and she tell me, making no play sweeter than home.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for supporting the program, guys. You know, it's an interesting discussion. And I firmly believe to have a men's day where you celebrate and empower men doesn't necessarily mean that you have to not support Women's Day. I think men need to be empowered. And after learning all the statistics that we was faced with this week, after going to the conference, understanding that men make up for over 90-something% of the prison, right? We have to stop for a second and try to understand why. Why is it that these facts, these results, these are the truth? We have to stop for a second. So whether it's a day, whether it's a conversation or more conversation or understanding, we need to try to understand why women would better be able to negotiate and calm a situation, quell a situation before it gets or it escalates to the point where they're killing each other. Hence the reason why their numbers are so few in the prison. 7 inmates in the prison are women. 400 and something are men. We have to stop and provide counsel, provide mentors to the men to try to find out what is the problem. Whether you want to call it Men Day, Men Summit, Men Conversation, Men Talk, we have to understand what is going on with men. And it's have to start from young, at a tender age, talking about primary schools, right? We have to also find out why the statistic of women getting better jobs, right, are in the fields. Better, even if you check some of the higher echelons of job, the higher even paying jobs, right, are women. Women have, of course, if you look on the roads, women own more vehicles and better vehicles than men. Women are doing great things. So we have to stop for a second and empower the men. But that doesn't mean that we have to degrade women. That doesn't mean that it is exclusive that for men to do great, women have to do bad. We need to empower and motivate and mentor them young men. And it doesn't mean, again, it doesn't come as a result of degrading the other sex. We all need each other at the end of the day. I thank you guys so much for watching and being a part of conversations like these. I know sometimes it's not the most sexiest topic, but it's important. It's an important conversation that we need to have. And we thank Mr. Jerry Edwin for taking up from his busy schedule, and Mr. Randall Fields for also joining us on a late call as well. Guys, I'm gonna try my best to stay off my feet for the next couple of days because this pain that I'm having with my lower back, it's very, very painful. Even throughout the duration of the program, if you guys saw, I was putting You know, you wasn't seeing me on camera because I was getting up for a second and stretch. And it's a job and I have to do it. But let's hope everything works out well. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for being a part of our program. Tomorrow, we have more great and exciting conversation right here and right along live. Catch you guys again tomorrow. Don't forget, Mr. Kem Jones. Kem, big up yourself. Kem Jones is coming to New York. Where's Kem Flyer? Kem Flyer. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Yeah, so Kem Jones is coming to New York. Kem Jones Visit New York, the touchdown, New York City. Get your tickets right now. I'll put the link in the description where you could purchase your tickets. That is on December 2nd in New York City. More information, you could check the page for that, all right? Also, guys, we're having a little bit of a problem with our Ride-Buy or payment platform. So the tickets are not available on Ride-Buy at the moment. We're trying to fix it. So just stand by for that until we get that fixed. And also our sweaters going really, really fast, guys, for Independence. Get it early. It's a limited edition. Again, thanks for watching. Let me show you guys this. And I got to big up the women again, I got to big up the women. I was looking at the Ride Along stats, right? And in terms of the numbers, women make up in all categories of viewership, all age range of viewership. So there you have 112,134 followers to the program. Women make up for, how much is it? 68%, some 68% in all age range on this platform. So I want to big up the women, big up the female who continue to share and like the program. We love you, we love you, we love you, we love you. Thank you so much. Catch you guys tomorrow. On behalf of all of our production team here, our senior executive producer, Lois JJ, Kibbs, Gail, how you doing? Thank you guys so much. Good night.
Cathwell Stationery Services Limited announces its massive blowout sale on all stationery for school and office. Get copy paper at just $18 per ream. Enjoy up to 18% off folders, cardstock, Bristol boards, ink and toner cartridges, laptops, office furniture, and more. To order now, call 442-5848 or 5747. Or call 435-3377 and get free delivery island-wide and the lowest prices nationwide. Or visit our outlet on Scott Street, St. George's, where we guarantee the lowest prices daily. Cathwell Stationery Services Limited, the reliable office supply people.
Now, it's Instacash Grenada. Imagine a game with no numbers to choose from, no draws to wait on, and you can play it every day, including Sunday. That's Instacash. It's fast, it's easy to play, and you win prizes instantly. Instacash. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA, making dreams come true.